This is DX Central Live. This is DX Central Live. This is DX Central Live.
Stand by for a transmission from DX Central. This broadcast is not a test. To confirm reception, please tune your radio to any AM or FM frequency and report your observations during this transmission. Again, this is not a test. Stand by for a transmission from DX Central. This broadcast is not a test. To confirm reception, please tune your radio to any AM or FM frequency and report your observations during this transmission. Again, this is not a test.
This is Radio Havana, Cuba.
This is DX Central Live. DX Central Live is brought to you in part by...
Since 1933, the National Radio Club has been serving AMDXers while providing some of the most in-depth information in the hobby. From the annual NRC AM log, a must-have reference for domestic station information, to antenna design reference manuals, and of course, the DX News Member Bulletin, which is filled with station information updates, domestic and international loggings, and a whole lot more. Become a member today. For more information, log on to nationalradioclub.org. That's nationalradioclub.org. While the HF bands can be filled with entertaining and intriguing transmissions, How do you know when and where to look? Let Teague Publishing's Global Radio Guide lead the way. In addition to its exhaustive list of time and frequency for international broadcasters, radio hobby icon Gail Van Horn brings you equipment reviews, an SDR buyer's guide, feature articles, and more. Pick up your copy today. Visit teaguepublishing.com for more information. That's teaguepublishing.com. From the pages of its DX Monitor member bulletin, members of the International Radio Club of America share their domestic and international AM/DX loggings. In its Mexican log, a wealth of information can be found of stations from south of the border. Technical guides, sunrise, sunset maps, and more make the IRCA a must-join for any AM/DXer. For more information, log on to ircaonline.org. That's ircaonline.org.
Through crashes of static in quiet hours, we listen. In languages we can scarcely understand, and of places we have only visited in our dreams, we listen. Incessantly, we perfect our array of aerials, receivers, and resources. We refine our skills and our techniques so that we might listen. We are DX Central, and we're all about radio. Visit us at dxcentralonline.com or check us out on YouTube. Search DX Central.
Keep up with DX Central. Follow us on Twitter at DX Central.
From the Gulf South
To your corner of the world.
this is DX Central Live.
Now here's your host, Lloyd Van Horn.
It's DX Central Live from the North Shore Studios here in Manville, Louisiana. Happy Friday evening to you, my friends, and happy great week of DX. It's been fun. Haven't done a lot of AM this week. Did some FM though. That was a lot of fun this week. Down here in the Gulf, Tropo engine was churning. So we had a little bit of a chance to do some FMDX this week. We'll talk about that in a bit. In fact, we're going to be talking a lot about FMDX tonight because this is going to be part one of our FMDX special here on DX Central Live, getting you ready for FMDX season. So we're going to be talking about equipment and gear. We're going to be talking about, let's see, a little sharper. There we go. Equipment and gear. We're going to be talking about my dog running through the hall here. Equipment and gear. We're going to be talking about some websites, some resources for you, things like that. So make sure that you are prepared for FMDX season. We're going to get you there. So we're talking about our medium wave frequency challenge frequencies of the week. We've been sitting on 1190 to 1220. I told you it was going to be a little this week, right? A little bit of a lighter week. There's not a ton there. But there is some stuff to glean. I haven't spent a lot of time, but what time I did get to spend, I did some sunset, did some sunrise. There wasn't a lot there for me here this week either. I was hoping for some ventures down south on the Kiwi. Didn't happen. Nothing really came through. So a little bit of a disappointing week as far as that goes. But fear not, we've got 2 more weeks of the medium wave frequency challenge left for this season. And the next one that we got coming up, it's a lighter week as far as it's not as many frequencies as what we normally do. Like there's fewer frequencies for us to sit on. But oh my goodness, the amount of stuff that's going to be sitting there waiting for us is pretty extensive. And then the last week that we're going to do is a doozy. It is a doozy. So get your sleep, eat your Wheaties, get your energy up, get some protein bars and some granola bars and all the other kind of energy bars and things like that. Your 5-hour energies, get all of those stocked up and ready for that last week because it's gonna be a big one. Of course, we got your shout outs to get to tonight, so make sure you hit that shout out link. I've got that pinned here on the YouTube chat if you're over on YouTube. If not, we'll get that pasted in here in just a few moments. So make sure you get your shout outs in if you have new stations you heard this week, new countries, new states, new Mexican states, new Louisiana stations, Wisconsin stations. If you hit a milestone, you got some new gear, any of that kind of stuff. anything cool that you want to make sure you share with the rest of us, hit that shout out form, get that submitted so we can get you that shout out this hour. We'll be doing our first round with the Horn of Victory, and then we'll do one round each of the next 2 hours after that. Speaking of new gear, they just opened up the store this week for the third production build of the new Kiwi SDR version 2. Of course, you guys know we've got one up and running right now here in Mandeville over at our Studio C, over here around the corner at Mom's house at Shortwave Central. We've been running that Kiwi now for about a month or so, and that's on a beautiful 25-foot by 72-foot CAS pointing right at Central and South America, and it does such a good job. Well, we have now ordered our own DX Central version of the Kiwi here. We're going to put that in the shack in here when we do our model, and that's going to be sitting on. We're going to rotate our different super loops that we have here at the DX Central North Shore Studios antenna farm. We're going to be rotating those super loops through the Kiwi. Most of the time it's going to be on the east-west, just to give us a little variation from the other Kiwi. But there will be times where I'll put the northwest or southeast or the 15 degree or the 195. I might try some of those different ones out just to try different things, but most of the time we're going to be sitting on the east-west version of the Superloop that's out in the front yard. So give you guys a chance to hear something a little bit different from Mandeville than what you are hearing on the big north-south Kiwi we have over at Studio C. Speaking of the dog, there's the hey dog. Speaking of remodel, spent a lot of time this week doing some research and some ordering and everything for our big remodel here of North Shore Studios version 3. And so got all that. I think most of everything should be here tomorrow. We're getting close, so as soon as we wrap up season 4 here of DX Central Live on May 3rd, the very next day this room starts getting gutted and everything's coming out, and we're gonna do a big remodel here that we'll be revealing as we get into the fall for season. Can't believe we're already at season 5 of DX Central Live. So yeah, we'll be doing that reveal coming up here. And I'll be making a more conscious effort this time to document the process of creating this shack and all the different things we're going to do. Some wall treatment, some ceiling treatments, some different things we're going to be doing to kind of get the room where it needs to be. And then of course, all the radio gear and the antennas and the cable management, we're going to be doing all that kind of stuff, the monitor placement, all that. Be making sure that we do some documentation on that with some videos and things like that. So make sure that you stay tuned as we get closer to fall. Those should all be coming out, but that'll be getting started, like I said, in a couple weeks. And we just got everything. I think most everything should be in tomorrow. There might be like a thing or two left that we have to order, but I think like some cables or some cable ties or some cable labels and things like that. But most of like the gear stuff that we need is going to be here tomorrow. So pretty excited about some unboxing tomorrow that we'll be doing here at North Shore Studios. Other than that, let's get started with some AMDX, shall we? Speaking of that nice, big, beautiful Kiwi, we're going to do some DX on that Kiwi now. This first hour of live DX brought to you by the National Radio Club. That's... Whoa, now, hold on. We ain't ready for shout-outs just yet. This first hour brought to you by the National Radio Club. NationalRadioClub.org is a website for more information about becoming a member of the NRC today. Now looking here on the waterfall, not a lot of signals in here, especially in our frequency range, is 1200 or 1190 to 1220. I don't see a lot in here just yet, so let's do a quick tour of that. We may bounce over to the Perseus here in a minute if that yields us some better results, a little bit better, because we're looking, I think actually that one's looking southeast. We may either do that, or we might bounce over to the air spy because that one's still pointing north. So there you go. All right, let's start off with the Kiwi CAS here, though. This is on 1190. Let's see what we got. So that's going to be WMEJ in Bay St. Louis, Mississippi. Right around the corner from us down here, just to my east. Hey, Mom. What's up? 1200 is going to be nothing right now. Surprised that WOAI doesn't come in better here. We might try that on the west wire here in a minute on the Perseus. 1210. If I had to guess, that's probably KGYN in Guyman. It's a little early. And then 1220. Oops.
So that was really it. That's why I was.
Yeah, nothing there on 1220 just yet. Let's swap back over to the Perseus here and see what we got going on over here. So this is the Perseus with our northwest southeast wire. We're pointing southeast right now at 125 degrees. This is a 20-foot by 97-foot long Superloop, and let's start off here on 1190. See if I can get rid of some of that. Yep. All right, let's swap over to the east-west. Yeah, it's so early right now, right? Yeah, it's really early here. We're still pretty bright outside. That's the tough thing about these last couple episodes before the season ends is pretty bright out there. Let's check one thing here. Let's check the Air Spy HF Plus Discovery, and this is on our north. I call it the northeast wire. Traditionally, this was about 40 degrees. Right now, it's at 15. Let's just see where we are here. See, that's a little better. It's a little quieter on this one right now because we're pointing in a direction that's favorable towards the Terminator. These other antennas were all pointing away from the Terminator, not looking good. So I want to say Terminator, I mean the gray line. And you know what time it is, by the way. Hit that siren there, Bill. It's time for the top of the hour alert. We're looking for IDs. So on 1220, could that be Birmingham? I would imagine that's probably Birmingham to be AYE, which I haven't actually not heard them this week. That'd be a new one for the challenge. So of course we are getting ready for another group of frequencies here soon. Next hour we'll be announcing that towards the top of the next hour. My dog was doing something weird. When is she not doing something weird? You're weird. Can you tell everybody on YouTube how weird you are? Yeah, she's weird. You guys can hear the Air Spy now, right? I think I fixed that so you can hear it. Hey. There we go. Thank you, Bill. So that's the first time they've made it in this week. Let's see what's down here on 1210.
Seventh Blue Devils to leave since the end of the season. The 6'9" power forward averaged 2 points and 3 rebounds off the bench for Duke as a freshman. Baseball in the National League, Chicago beat Miami today 8-3. The Marlins are now
That's probably also Alabama.
Season, tied for their worst start.
This antenna does really, really well at Alabama.
Marshall scores. The Reds and Angels are tied at 1. Boston leads Pittsburgh 5-0. The Phillies are hammering the White Sox 7-0. Alec Boehm has 2 home runs. Texas and Atlanta are in the second, tied up at 1-1. Former Florida State running back Rodney Hill has committed to Arkansas. His agent told Pete Thamel of ESPN he'll be a Razorback after 2 years at FSU.
Monday morning, we enter my favorite week of the year, the NFL Draft, getting closer by the day. Plus, we're all over the NBA playoffs. It's Greeny, starting 10 a.m. Eastern on ESPN Radio and the ESPN app.
Yep, that would be ESPN WTK or TXK ticket in Pike Road, Alabama. Also one that didn't make it in this week until just now.
1 week away from the 2024 NFL Draft. I can't wait. Welcome into First Draft. Mel, how are you feeling?
I think my
out from the draft?
I tell you, I'm just
One
trying
is
to
not
juggle
submitting.
a lot of things, Field, as you are. You know, you get to this time of year and you got 50 million things and responsibilities. You try to
Yeah, this week's been a weird one, man. It's been a
I'll read everything.
been an oddball week. Some stuff that I normally get to hear just not making the trip this week.
A lot of different things there, but this time next week, I'll be driving to Detroit. I'll be in transit to Detroit. You will probably be already there, right?
I'll be there early, yes. I'll be
Try re-entering this now.
Cool. In there early. Good deal. And like I said, we're going to have a lot of fun today. We've got a lot of guys that are a little off the radar that maybe haven't been talked about a lot, Field, that maybe had a great pro day, or people are getting on because they're going back to look at the film and they're saying this guy may be a little underrated. You tweak your board. I know your rankings, I believe,
Actually,
Field, are finished, right? Are they etched in stone?
that was the other
Are they
one.
done?
Well, they're on the website. My top 200 was released on ESPN.com today. I got to be honest, it is a scary thing to think that 7 days out they could be etched in stone. My goal is to resist temptation and not change anything, Mel. But I don't think there's too much that could take place between now and next Thursday that could dramatically alter how I feel about it.
Yeah, the conditions have been a little odd this week.
Here or there, and my mentality, at least in this moment, is to not.
I'm hopeful that this solar event that we got coming up here is going to net some
I'll say this, you always get
some
that
southern
pressure coming from outside
enhancement.
sources, right? To get your ratings to work in unison with the way the draft unfolds, and that's not what ratings are. Teams only need, and you've been there, Field, 120 players to get through 7 rounds? Okay? You don't need to try to match your ratings with, and they always do this top 100. Who has the most players right in the top 100? I don't want to have that. I want to have guys that I have at 80 that go 160, or guys that might go 80 that I had at 160. So just, you want that, guys that maybe are taken higher.
All right, so now let's take a look at 1200. Yeah, I didn't anticipate anything here because we're pointing away from OAI. And there's not a lot to my east here on 1200 until we get like up into North Carolina, Kentucky, and it's a little early for that. So let's go back to 1190. He's at 1180. Good Lord.
The IRS is the most
Jackson,
powerful collection
Mississippi.
agency on earth, and if you obey...
J&T coming in with the heat. Coming in hot. Let's increase my bandwidth a little bit here. So I would imagine that's probably WMEJ in there again, but pretty weak on the northeast wire. Hey, I'm up to 14 stations this week now. All right. It just hasn't been there, man. They just have not been there this week. There's something there. Very, very weak on 1200. Alabama. And there's 1220 again with WAYE. So a couple of stations in Alabama made the trip here for sunset today, and one from Mississippi. So pretty close in. I'm not surprised by that. We're getting pretty close proximity enhancement, as we're still pretty early here. 30-45 minutes away from true sunset or so. All right. So let's go ahead and take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to have some more DX for you. Obviously, we're going to be talking some FMDX tonight as we get ready for FMDX season. And we got your shout-outs to get to and a whole lot more. So don't go anywhere, my friends. We got more DX Central Live heading your way right after this. Stay tuned.
DX Central, because we're all about radio. Visit us at dxcentralonline.com or check us out on YouTube. Search DX Central. DX Central Live is brought to you in part by...
Since 1933, the National Radio Club has been serving AMDXers while providing some of the most in-depth information in the hobby. From the annual NRC AM log, a must-have reference for domestic station information, to antenna design reference manuals, and of course, the DX News Member Bulletin, which is filled with station information updates, domestic and international loggings, and a whole lot more. Become a member today. For more information, log on to nationalradioclub.org. That's nationalradioclub.org. While the HF bands can be filled with entertaining and intriguing transmissions, how do you know when and where to look? Let Teague Publishing's Global Radio Guide lead the way. In addition to its exhaustive list of time and frequency for international broadcasters, radio hobby icon Gail Van Horn brings you equipment reviews, an SDR buyer's guide, feature articles, and more. Pick up your copy today. Visit teaguepublishing.com for more information. That's teaguepublishing.com. From the pages of its DX Monitor Member Bulletin, members of the International Radio Club of America share their domestic and international AMDX loggings. In its Mexican log, a wealth of information can be found of stations from south of the border. Technical guides, sunrise, sunset maps, and more make the IRCA a must-join for any AMDXer. For more information, log on to ircaonline.org. That's ircaonline.org.
Through crashes of static in quiet hours, we listen. In languages we can scarcely understand, and of places we have only visited in our dreams, we listen. Incessantly, we perfect our array of aerials, receivers, and resources. We refine our skills and our techniques so that we might listen. We are DX Central, and we're all about radio. Visit us at dxcentralonline.com or check us out on YouTube. Search DX Central.
Keep up with DX Central. Follow us on Twitter at DX Central.
This is DX Central Live. From the DX Central North Shore Studios, this is DXC Live. Now here's your host, Lloyd Van Horn.
It's DX Central Live from the North Shore Studios here in Mandeville, Louisiana. Beautiful Mandeville, Louisiana. Such beautiful weather today. Absolutely stunning. Last couple of days have been kind of cloudy, but beautiful day today. Got a little bit on the muggy side. It's like I was talking with neighbors a few moments ago. It's like training for the summertime, right? So we give you a little bit of humidity here in April, a little bit of that, and then now we're gonna have some rain this weekend. It's gonna cool everything off for a day or two, and then it gets a little bit hotter again. A little bit more humidity starts to come in, and then it's like, okay, now you're ready for summertime. It's like Mother Nature knows down here. You can't just jump right into it. You can't just go be, nice weather in the spring, and then here you go. You have to kind of prepare for it a little bit. So we get this little bit of heat, and now you're ready. So that's where we are right now. We're in the little bit of heat season here in Mandeville in southeast Louisiana, which is really, really great for FMDX, by the way, because we get these great temperature inversions where it's actually cooler at the surface than it is above, right? That's kind of what those temperature inversions are all about, right? When it's cooler down the surface level, and then as you go up in height and altitude, it gets warmer, which is not what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to get cooler as you go up, but this is the whole point of inversion. It's twist that thing around the way it's not supposed to be. So we've been getting some really, really good FMDX Tropo down here on the Gulf South this week. I've seen some reports of some great DX from Mexico. One DXer in Veracruz, hearing over 1,100 miles all the way into Alabama, Birmingham, Alabama this week via Tropo, not E-skip, via Tropo. He broached the 1,000-mile barrier on Tropo this week. That's how good this was. Here we got to about 650 miles or so, I think was our peak. We did here down in Mexico, down in Yucatan, saw a bunch of Florida, broke into some places we hadn't broken into before. I'm going to talk about that here in a little bit when I do my shout outs. I'm going to do mine a little earlier than usual tonight because we got some cool stuff to talk about. And it's applicable to our main topic tonight, which is FMDX. So yeah, we heard some good stuff. We did hear some Texas, a lot of Alabama this week, and a lot of Florida the other night. So hopefully, those of you who are not yet getting into the FMDX mode, hopefully yours is coming very, very soon, whether it be some Tropo, or maybe we won't have to hold out too long before E-skip season really gets underway. It's usually sometime in May-ish. We start to see those openings start to kind of percolate a little bit. So maybe in a couple weeks, we can start seeing something. I think last year, my first opening was May 19th. It was right after we finished up season 3 of DX Central Live. May 19th was the first E-skip opening. We had a couple little beady tiny little things, but our first E-skip opening of the year last year was May 19th. And that was a little opening into Pennsylvania, Ohio, I think in Ontario a little bit. And then a couple weeks later we had the big one, May 31st, that I never did finish. I never finished my recording review. I got to 88.9. That's where I kind of stopped. I need to finish the rest of my recording review from May 31st of last year. Oh, and then I've got June 22nd and June 23rd, and then there's some July openings. So I'm a little behind on my FM. So, might want to get that done before we get to FM season. All right, so we're going to talk about FMDX tonight. It's going to be our main topic of discussion. We'll do some AM as well. Of course, we'll introduce our new frequencies of the week, but I do want to spend some time tonight talking about FMDX, talking about some of the preparations that I'm doing here in the shack. We'll talk a bit some of the outside the shack stuff you can do as well, but I want to talk about some of the inside the shack stuff that we are also doing here to get ready for FMDX season. Before things get really, really cranked up. I know we're doing a little bit now, but it's really going to get going here in a little bit. Want to make sure that we're ready. But before we do that, though, we have some cool stuff to talk about. It's shout out time here. So let's go ahead and get to the shout out form. I've put the link into the chat. So if you have not yet submitted your shout outs, make sure that you do. We want to make sure we get a chance for you to get some recognition for your hard DX work and your hard fought and hard well-earned DX accolades that you might have gotten over the last week. I will be putting together the year-end form. It's going to be the same one from last year. We're putting that year-end form out here pretty soon on the social media. and on the Slack channel and things like that. So next week, I will have the link for the year-end form to start getting everybody up so they can start putting in like their season accomplishments. So basically we're going to call it from August. I don't know, from September 1st to May 3rd. Okay, that's going to be the year end. So anything that you might want to talk about that you did this year. So like for me, I'm going to be talking about the fact that I got, managed to get Argentina in the logbook this year, and Algeria back in the logbook, and British Columbia and Washington, things like that, right? So we're going to talk about, and this can be AM and FM, by the way. AM and FM, anything that you've gotten accomplished since September 1st of last year through May 3rd of this year, that's going to be on the end of the year form. When I say end of the year, I mean DX Central Live end of the year, not overall, but the end of the season form for us, and then we'll relay those shout outs out during our last episode on May 3rd. Sound good? All right. Let's start off with Bill here for our first shout out of the week. Bill the Hammer, you're up first, my friend. Some new ones this week for Bill. He had a good week. Where's that? There it is. Bill got 1190 CFSL in Weyburn, South Saskatchewan, Canada. Weyburn, Saskatchewan, CFSL on 1190. Also on 1190 to be IXE in Monroe, North Carolina. And 1200 to be FC in Nashville. That was a new inform. 1210 to be DAO in Dayton, Ohio. Franklin, Kentucky, WFKN on 1220. And WKRS, Waukegan, Illinois on 1220 as well. So some new logs there for Bill this week from Michigan. Well done, my friend. All right, let's see. Well done. Anytime we see Canada in the logbook, I always get excited about that. We don't see them very often down here in Louisiana, so I live vicariously through those of you who hear them on a regular basis. Speaking of FMDX, we've got some FM to talk about this week. How about David Harden in Warner Robins, Georgia? Just one FM log this week, W263CA in Macon, Georgia. Still wanting to log every station you can on the FM band. That's a great goal, my friend. Got a new one from Macon, so we're going to give David the Horn of Victory and saw him a new log. All right, this will be round one of our shout outs. I got a couple more to get to here, and then we'll do round two in the next hour. So you still have plenty of time to get your shout outs in. If you haven't not yet done so, make sure you submit those through the submission form. We got it pinned here for those of you watching on YouTube. If you're not on YouTube, you can scroll up a little bit and you'll find the link there for the shout outs. You'll see my big shout outs link there. Carl in Kingsport, Tennessee, 6 new logs this week, 2 on the challenge frequencies. They are WENC in North Carolina, WFKN in Kentucky. Outside of our challenge frequencies, WVHU in West Virginia, WMPO in Ohio, WCOG North Carolina, WCDT in Tennessee. Both challenge logs were on 1220. Total medium wave logs now standing at 733 for Carl. Well done, my friend. You get that Horn of Victory. All right, Mexico Mike P, you are up here. So let's talk some FM logs from Mexico Mike from last week or so. And we've got 89.7 XHID in Veracruz, in Alamo, Veracruz. 90.5 XHTI also in Veracruz. KROI in Houston, Texas, 92.1. That's one of our regular Tropo catches here. Very nice. CXHTU 92.3. KESO in South Padre Island 92.7. They made it in this week. That was my first time getting them, actually. Yeah, so we both got the same station this week. Nice. 92.9 KKBQ Houston, 93.1 XHCRA, 95.7 XHXO, and 96.5, sorry, KHMX in Houston. 96.7 XHBY and 97.9 KBXX in Houston, 98.1 WDGL in Baton Rouge. Look at you getting that Louisiana. We know it's coming. 102.1 KMJQ in Houston, 103.3 WRQQ in Baton Rouge. Very nice. Got our local here, The Spot, 104.1 KVDU New Orleans, knowing 106.1 KIOC in Beaumont, 106.7 KTKX in San Antonio, 106.9 KHPT in Houston, 107.5 KGLK in Houston, and 107.7 XHXAL in Veracruz. So some good stuff coming in for Mike this week on the FM dial, including, guess what? We're gonna get you that gumbo shot because you got that Louisiana, baby. Yes, sir. So we got the new Louisiana stations, including one from right here in New Orleans, baby. KVDU 104.1, The Spot. Got them in. And we're also going to give them the log. Very nice, my friend. Mexico Mike P with the big FM haul this week. Well done, my friend. And let's go to our last one for round one here. And then I'll go ahead and we'll do ours a little early tonight because, like I said, it is applicable to what we're talking about with FMDX tonight. Jacob, you are our last one for round one. Keegan, I see you're in here as well. We'll get you in the first one of round two. All right, Jacob, new log on 1200 with CJRJ, Vancouver, British Columbia, match to the Vancouver area Kiwi, doing Punjabi music. So new log from British Columbia for Jacob. Now, he's heard British Columbia quite a few times, so that's not a new Canadian province for him, so no moose. Sorry. All right. Let's talk about our week here for FMDX, and that's going to transition us into our main topic for this evening's broadcast, which is FMDX. Our first in two parts of FMDX discussion for preparation for FM season. So 32 new logs this week. I'm not going to list them all. 32 new logs this week here on FM. Okay. All from Tropo, right? All Tropo logs, including, here's some of the stuff that we snagged this week via Gulf Tropo. We have WAPE 95.1 in Jacksonville, Florida. Why is that significant? Well, when I was a kid, a little bitty kid, real little bitty kid, before we were here in New Orleans, we lived in Orange Park, Florida for a while. My dad was stationed there in Orange Park. And WAPE, Big Ape Radio, that was my station, right? So my memories of Big Ape, I have the sticker with the Big Ape and he's sitting on top of the letters like this. My memory of Big Ape is that was the soundtrack of my summer, right? I'm talking like 85 to 88. All right. So think about what was music, coming out back in 85 to 88. They were top 40 station then too. And man, I tell you, it was the soundtrack of my summer, running around, had my boombox with me or my Walkman on or whatever. And every day listening to Big Ape. I've wanted them ever since. When I lived in Charleston, I couldn't, because we had a local on 95.1 in Charleston. And so I always wanted them, but never could get Big Ape down there in South Carolina. But I did manage to sneak them in this week. So very, very happy about that one. Also, speaking of Florida, 10 new stations logged from the state of Florida this week, mostly right there on the West Coast. We did get, I think, a couple up in the Panhandle around Tallahassee area. 10 new stations from Alabama. We added a new station from Arkansas and 3 from Mississippi. But that's not, those were really awesome. That would have been an amazing week right there. If I just stopped right there, I'd been like, wow, that was an amazing week. But we're not done. We got 3 stations from a brand new state for us on the FM band. The state of Georgia finally fell. Man, I have wanted that one. I've been wanting Georgia. Oh, man. They're too short for E-Skip. Them in South Carolina both are too short for E-Skip. Unless it's like a super short, like high MUF, right? if I get one of those kind of openings, maybe I can get some Carolinas on E-skip. But normally it would have to be like a raging tropo, and we just had enough of that. We got Moultrie, Georgia, Columbus, Georgia, and what was the third one? Somewhere else, a little bit further in. Oh, where was it? I don't remember off the top of my head. But anyway, so 3 new stations from Georgia. So that gives us a brand new state. I think that puts me at 38, including DC, now on FM. So I have a lot of work to do out west. A tiny little bit up in the New England states, New Hampshire, Vermont, and Maine. That's all I need up in New England. South Carolina is left now. And then all the stuff out west. California, Utah, all that stuff out west. I need that. But we're getting close. We're getting really close to getting the entirety of the eastern half of the United States done. All I have left is South Carolina, and then those 3 up in New England, and then the eastern half will be done. So hopefully maybe this C-skip season, maybe. But we're still not done. We also got a couple new stations out of Mexico this week, both from the state of Yucatan, which is a new Mexican state for us. All right. I forget how many Mexican states we now have on FM. It's getting up there though. Obviously nowhere near what I have on AM. But we're getting close. Merida, which is where this was, is due south basically of here. And it was on the APRS map I'll be talking about here in a few minutes. It was just a line that somebody had going due south, and I was like, if that's making it down to FM, I'm going to have a shot at a new Mexican state. And sure enough, there it was. And there was one station the first day, and then the second day there was that station again and one more station. So I only heard 2 stations from Mexico this week. So it was a weird one. It wasn't like a super strong opening here. There was the Florida night 2 nights ago when we had the west coast of Florida coming in. That one got pretty good. That one was pretty strong for a while, pretty stable. But there wasn't a lot of RDS decodes here. The stuff coming from Mexico wasn't super strong. The stuff coming from Alabama wasn't super strong. It was kind of, it was in and then it was out, and it never really kind of like took form here. It was really weird. There was plenty of stuff there to DX, and it was a really interesting opening, but it just, I don't know if it's got kind of an early opening for the Tropo season, but normally when we have a Tropo opening here on the Gulf South, it's just like the waterfall is just like green and yellow. There was a lot of blue still in there, man. There was still a lot of blue in there, including some dark blue. Not every frequency was popping, including ones that should have been popping. They weren't. High up on the band, there were some gaps in there, and normally those gaps are not there. Like normally something is going to fill that in, and it didn't this time. So anyway, it was a good FM opening this week. So I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth at all. I need to stretch imagination. All that total together now puts us at over 900 stations logged on FM. So we did it. We hit 900 this week on FM, and that is since April 20th of last year. We have 900 stations, over 900 stations logged now on FM since April 20th of last year. So as of tomorrow, when we get to April 20th tomorrow on Saturday, that will be the 1 year anniversary of when I reset the dial and hit 0 on the logbook and just started from scratch. And so that we're now at 900. So we're actually at 903 or 904 now. So hopefully this e-skip season will get us punched through that 1,000. That's what I'm hoping for. I'm thinking if I had time to go back and review that finish that May 31st and do maybe like the June 22nd, I would probably punch 1,000, but we'll see. We'll see. I think we should be able to do that pretty easily this year, I hope. If we get especially if we get some Western openings. We had a lot last year northeast of here. I've got my share of New York and Pennsylvania. I'm good. I'm good on Minnesota. I know completely opposite of what I usually say on AM, right? Like, I need something from Minnesota. I'm good. I think my second or third state after Texas is New York and Minnesota. Those are the two biggest ones that I've got besides they're even bigger than Louisiana. You can believe that. All right, so let's talk FMDX while we're here thinking about FMDX. So we are getting into that season now where I'm spending more time, especially here on the Gulf South. And if you live on a coastal or near a coastal area, even if you're not, there was some pretty good inundation of that Tropo inland this last week. I know Les Rayburn in Alabama was getting some Tropo. The Boot Crew North folks up in Arkansas, y'all were getting some Tropo. Baton Rouge was getting some Tropo, which is just to my west. So it's still kind of Gulf Coast, but it's a little further inland, right? So yeah, I think anyone who's kind of in that southeast region, there's a lot of you on the stream right now that are kind of southeast region, you should be looking at Bill Hepburn's Tropo forecast map every single day at this point for the rest of the season. So I'm going to drop this link here in the chat. So those of you who are not familiar with it, make sure that you are looking at this every day. So this is basically a forecast for where tropospheric ducting should be happening. There are various colors here, and you'll see there's a scale down here. If you scroll down a little bit, there's a scale right here. That you'll go anywhere from 0, which is like just normal deadband. This purple and blue here is like there's a little bit of an enhancement. So you might hear like 150, 200 miles or something like that, at least down here. That's where I get like Lafayette, Alexandria, Mobile might come in on a blue or a purple. If you're getting to the greens and yellows now, Mobile is a little bit stronger, right? I'm probably getting into the panhandle of Florida just a little bit, things like that. So that's a little bit more of an enhancement once you get into this moderate to high. When you start getting up here into the orange, reds, and pinks and whites and grays, hold on to yourself. And that's what we had a lot this week down in the Gulf of Mexico, especially. There was a lot of that. There was at one point, there was like just a direct line between here and the Yucatan Peninsula that was nothing but red and above. There was some pink in there and some white and gray and stuff, but there was also a whole lot of red. So what you'll want to make sure you do is you go, and I put the link in the chat, but you go to Bill Hepburn's Tropo ducting forecast and select your region for where you are. That way you get the most zoomed in look for you. So for me, I'm usually going to be looking at the Gulf Caribbean map because that's going to give me the best indication of what's around me. Because I'm trying to hear Cuba on FM if I can. That'd be really, really cool to get some FM Tropo down in the Cuba. So I want to be able to look down into there. I want to look down to Mexico and the Yucatan and the Big Bend down here. Last year we had an 800+ mile reception down here into Veracruz on Tropo. So, being able to see this for me tells me the whole picture. Now, if you're up in the eastern half of the United States, eastern North America, this is where you want to be, right? So eastern North America looks at this as a whole. So you'll see this kind of off. When I was in Charleston, this is what I was looking at. I was looking at this kind of coastal Tropo here that would develop here from like North Carolina down into Florida. And I was looking for those big bloops right here in this area. You would also see, I know Rick out in the Outer Banks this week, I was looking at his auto logger. Let's look at his, actually, I think we're not gonna be able to see his current one, are we? We're gonna, we might, let's take a look here and see what he's got going on right now. If he has any Tropo action out east. Not really. But here is, this is Rick. Out here in Outer Banks, he was seeing well down in the Florida, and at the same time he was seeing all the way up the coast up here. So when you would go into Rick and look at his, like this is what he's got right now, his auto logger has got right now. It's a lot of North Carolina and Virginia, like you'd normally expect to see. He had it all the way down the coast, down into just north of Miami. He was up here into Delaware and New Jersey and Pennsylvania, up the coastline up in here. So he was seeing Tropo up and down the coast the other day. There was actually one time when I saw on the APRS map we're going to look at here in a few moments, where our Gulf Coast Tropo and that East Coast Tropo, those two ducks, looked like they might have merged a little bit. Now, everything kind of died shortly after that here. But there were people over here. We're talking to people over here on 2-meter VHF on amateur radio. People on the Gulf Coast, Texas, Louisiana. We're seeing people over here on the East Coast and like North Carolina and stuff. So there was a pretty nice opening going on here 2 nights ago. And so you can see this stuff coming usually by looking at the forecast. So let me talk through what you are looking for here. So one of the things that I like to do when I put this in, the first thing I'll do is I'll just very quickly scroll through all the different frames here. To do that, I'm either going to be clicking on my mouse, my left click on the map itself. So you can click like this, right? So that's one way, and just kind of click all the way through until it kind of clears out to the end. The other thing you can do is you take your keyboard here, right? And your left and right arrows. Your right arrow is going to go forward. Your left arrow is going to go back, right? So I like to go very quickly. I just like to very quickly scan through all the tiles here, the slides, each hour time period, to kind of see what the overall synopsis is. And I might do that 2 or 3 times just to kind of get a sense. Okay, so I'm seeing a front coming through here. You can see that because you've got this big area right here where it's kind of tropospheric-tastic out in front, and then behind it's kind of marginal, and then behind that is nothing. That's usually an indication of a front, especially if it's in a straight line like that. So that's a front coming through and kind of clearing everything out. And we do have some rain coming in on Sunday from a front that's going to come through and cool everything down. So that's going to clear out those layers of the atmosphere, clear out that tropoducting that we've been having here for the last several days. So, and then you'll see it start to build back in here by the time we get to like Wednesday. So I will go through and I'll just very quickly, and sometimes I'll even just hold it down. Sometimes it's a little too fast, but I'll just very quickly just look at all these and say, okay, what's going on? What am I seeing here? I see something off the East Coast out there. I see that front coming through and sweeping everything through, kind of clearing everything out. But it's starting off really nice and hot. The bathtub in the Gulf of Mexico is going to be cooking here at first, before that front comes through and kind of clears all the air out. So then once I've done that and got a synopsis of kind of what's going on, then I'll come back and look, okay, and say, let me look at specific times that I want to look at. These are in UTC. So for instance, right now it is just after midnight UTC. So it's right about here is where this is, generally speaking, the forecast for right now, right here, 0 UTC Saturday. So I look and see, okay, right now where I'm at, which is, you look where that U is right here, I'm like right above here, right? So I'm in this purple area right now. As I get into now, here is 3 hours from now, that's starting to push in here. 6 hours from now, it says 1 a.m. Now it's starting to push in a bit more. It says 4 a.m. and we get to 7 a.m. and we've got some nice little enhancement here on top of us here in where I'm at here in Southeast Louisiana into, looks like Texas, and even some down here, down to my south. Now, does this mean there's a guarantee that I would be hearing from here down south? No. That just tells me that there are some tropospheric ducting conditions that are happening here. And if my conditions and those conditions can get together, then that's where that duct can give me a nice little beam down to Mexico. So I might, if I'm doing, let's say here at 7 a.m. on Saturday morning, tomorrow morning, what am I going to do? If I was going to DX based off of this information, what am I going to do? Well, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm swinging my beam, my Yagi, down southwest, okay? Because that's going to give me my best shot at seeing some of this stuff that's over here into Texas, and anything that might be percolating here from Mexico would also be within my beam with the Yagi, right? So I'm going to try to look in the direction of where things are. I might also, if I was so inclined, or if I had a second beam, or if I wanted to also kind of look at, you know, maybe go out and turn that or use the rotor to turn it, I might also look over here along this Gulf Coast here into Florida. I would probably have a nice little look into this bend right here in Florida by Panama City and Tallahassee and all that. I would probably have a nice look over to here as well. Don't know if I'd have as much here on the western coast of Florida. And the main reason for that is most of this kind of darker red is off the coastline. And if you look at the coast now, there is this little blurb right here around north of Tampa across the peninsula. So that could be interesting right there. But when I look over here along the coast, there's a little bit of a breakup here off the coastline right here. You see, sometimes that happens. Now, if it's a really good duct like we had a couple nights ago, that thing is all the way through. But sometimes you'll see these little layers that kind of develop right here along the coastline and kind of prevent that duct from getting any further. So there's a really great on the VHF DX podcast, the AM, basically the FM DX podcast from Nick Langan and Bryce Foster. They actually interviewed Bill Hepburn, and he talks about this tropospheric ducting forecast and how to interpret that and how to look at it. And it was super, super helpful for me to kind of know what to expect and kind of what to look for. So recommend you check that out. But the more you look at this map and you kind of observe what you see, and then you go back in and you compare that to the real world observations of what you're actually hearing, you'll kind of get the sense of kind of what that map is trying to tell you, right? What the physics and the meteorology that is happening in the troposphere, what it's doing, and how that's relating to your DX conditions. Now, the other side of this as well is the real world. So this is the forecast. So this is like, looking ahead. This also is something you need to look at in the short term, like right now. So that's where this comes in. This is the APRS map. This APRS map is for 2 meter APRS. So I've got my Yaesu and my Kenwood HT sitting over here, handheld 2 meter and rigs, and they have an APRS feature, right? So it sends out an APRS signal, and then how far that APRS signal is being seen will populate this map a bit. So if, let's say, I have my APRS signal here in Southeast Louisiana, and let's say some guy down here in Texas, down in Reynosa, sees it, now there's a path between here and here. It's going to show up on the map as one of these different colored areas. The more intense it is, the further it is, the different colors you're going to see. Like this red, when you see red, pay attention. You've got yourself a nice path going on here. So right now there's some people here in Southwest Florida seeing up into just southeast of Dallas. So there's a path growing right here for some VHF. Now, this is 2 meter VHF. What do we know about tropospheric ducting? Well, tropospheric ducting is kind of the opposite of E-skip. E-skip starts low on VHF around 6 meters, 10 meters, 6 meters, and it works its way up into higher frequencies as it gets stronger and stronger and stronger. It gets that MUF starts to rise. The maximum usable frequency rises and rises and rises. Tropo is the opposite. Tropo starts higher up in VHF, so you'll see tropo happening in 160 megahertz region, like the weather band, before you see it anywhere, on FM. So you'll see it on like 160 megahertz, and you'll see it here on 2 meters sometimes start to kick up. And then if it keeps getting stronger and stronger, and it's more and more of a duct, you might get down into the FM band. So it usually will start higher into the FM band and work its way down. So just something to kind of look for. So when I'm looking for tropo openings, I'm looking at the top end of the band, usually 107, 106, 105, 103. I'll still have my open kind of beacon frequencies, I'd call them, down the lower end of the band, like the 92.1 here in New Orleans is open, 94.5. If I'm hearing Lafayette, that tells me things are kind of normal. If I'm not hearing Lafayette, that tells me something unique is going on. So that, again, goes back to something I've been preaching here pretty regularly on this live stream, is getting to know your FM band, making sure you know when you tune around on your FM band what you're going to hear on any given frequency. If I'm on 99.9 and I hear country, I know that's probably KTDY here in Louisiana. If I'm on 102.5 and I hear pop music, that's probably WFMF in Baton Rouge, usually, right? Sometimes you might get something a little bit different there because maybe it's another station's taking over. If I'm on 93.7 and I'm hearing Spanish, okay, that might be something unique, right? So, but maybe it's not, because there's a low power station in New Orleans on 93.7 that it's a Spanish station, right? So it's about knowing your band. It's about knowing where do you have gaps, where do you have empty spaces on your band to know where to look for. And then when you don't have those empty spaces, when you do have a station, what do you expect to hear or see as far as RDS? And then if you hear something different than that, or you're seeing a different code than you're used to seeing, maybe you got something unique going on. So this is my map I used to kind of gauge, is there even anything? So I look at this the exact same way I look at the 6 meter E-skip DX maps map. If it's going to get to FM, it's going to have to go through 6 meters first to get there, right? Normally, usually. Okay. If it's going to get down to FM on Tropo, it's got to go through 2 meters to get there. So if there's nothing cooking on Tropo, there's probably not going to be anything cooking on FM, more than likely. So if you see something here, that doesn't mean you're going to see something on FM, but if you don't see anything here, you're probably not going to see anything on FM, right? So this is the first place I usually I keep 2 windows open. I look at this guy, and then I'm looking at this guy right here as well. This is the Rabbit Ears map. And let me pop that one in the chat for you guys. This is the Rabbit Ears map that shows like the whole country. Oh, that'd be an interesting one here. From Milford down into Mexico. What's that? We have a little early E-skip, little nugget. I don't know. But this is, you can also sometimes see e-skip openings here. You can also sometimes see tropo openings here, because this is just basically those auto-logged stations that are coming in to a receiver and mapping out where they are. So you'll see e-skip pop up here a lot of times where you have like, you know, New York seeing down here to Texas and Louisiana or Oklahoma or whatever. Man, pay attention to that. Then you go look at your other resources to kind of determine if that's real or not. So I look at this map, the APRS map. I look at this map. And the other one I look at here is this one. I'll pop this one in the chat as well. This is the FM list map for the last 30 minutes. Okay. Oh, that didn't get the whole thing here. And I know we're about 10 minutes away from top of the hour here. Okay. So this is the last 30 minutes map here on FM list. And what this basically does is it shows you anyone who has logged something on FM list over the last 30 minutes. So this is much more manual than this. This is automated, right? This is an auto logger from RDSD codes. This one is someone purposely sitting down and saying, I heard this station in this location from where I am, right? So as an example of that, let me see if there's anything in the last 6 hours or so. Okay, so here is Brian in Dalton, Georgia. Heard a station here in Nashville, WSM on 95.5. So Brian is saying, I heard this station here, right? This is a logged event that occurred from Dalton, Georgia to Nashville, Tennessee. So you can see these, and you'll see up here. Here we go. Larry up in Nova Scotia, hearing here into, I guess that's Newfoundland into Nova Scotia. So you've got, Newfoundland and Nova Scotia. So you've got the other way here too, right? You'll also see e-skip here. And this is where the e-skip alerts we're going to be talking about in another session here in a bit. This is where e-skip alerts get populated is from this map. So the three that I'm looking at for right now conditions, if I want to know what's happening on the FM band right now as a whole, large, big picture, I'm looking at this map, especially for tropo. I'm looking at this map for tropo and for ease. I'm looking at this map for tropo and for ease. Okay. This tells me what to expect from a tropo standpoint. It's not going to do e-skip, just tropo, because e-skip's not influenced by the troposphere. Okay. E-skip is in the ionosphere. So this map tells me what's going on with tropo in the future. It can also be, if I look at the one for the forecast for right now, this can tell me what should be happening right now. And then I can look at these maps to kind of validate that or not. But normally when I'm looking at this, I'm doing so to look the forecast ahead. So think of this as like the Weather Channel forecast, like the 3-day forecast. And then these are the equivalent of calling your friends and saying, hey, is it raining where you are, right? So this is a way to kind of see what's kind of going on, right? Right now on the FM band. So bookmark these four. If you bookmark nothing else from this discussion or take nothing else from this discussion that we're having right now, this segment, these 4 websites, bookmark them, know them, use them. Basically every day from here until August sometime, I'll be looking at these 4 pages every day for the rest of the summer, because this is where openings happen, is in these forecasts. Now there is a e-skip forecast that's out there from some folks over in Europe. We've looked at it here on this live stream before. I've tested it a little bit. Yeah, I don't know how much credence I play into it. There were a couple times where I was like, oh man, it's saying we should have a pretty good opening today. Nothing happened. And then there's other times where it said nothing and we had an opening. Or there was times where it said we would and we did. So it's a little more hit or miss with e-skip. Some of the mechanics behind it, we have some pretty good theories out there, but I don't think anyone's got a really good pin down of exactly what it is that causes the ionization of the E layer to occur in the summertime in those certain months. That doesn't happen elsewhere in the year, right? There's all of these people who think it's this, it's that. And you can, most of the time, you can discredit every one of those theories because it's just not happening in the way that they're describing. So anyway, off topic. But yeah, those 4 sites, make sure you bookmark those and hold on to them and use those this time of the year, and you should be prepared for FM season. Now, we get into our next segment here in the next hour. We're going to talk a bit more about some other FM tools you'll find online. We're going to talk a bit about SDR Console from an FM perspective, and some other things you can do to start getting ready for the DX season. So make sure you don't go anywhere. We'll have more FM DX stuff coming up here in a bit. But let us now get into our next to last grouping of frequencies here for the medium wave frequency challenge. So we are wrapping up week 16. Let's get to week 17 now and get a whole new batch of frequencies. Ready? Let's do this. All right, there we go. I told you it'd be a short little group, 1460, 1470, 1480. That's it. 3 frequencies, that's it. But there's a lot of stations. There's over 150, 160 stations on those 3 frequencies, right? So there's a lot here that we can potentially be logging and putting into the logbook, but there's not a lot of real estate that you have to cover to get it done. So the new form will go live here at the top of the hour. So we'll be putting that up here in just a few moments whenever that goes live. And you still have time in the next 9 minutes to get your logs in from week 16. Otherwise, the new log will go, or the new page will go live here, the new form and everything at the top of the hour. I'm going to go ahead and put that link active so we can test that out here in a few moments. But first, let's go ahead and get ourselves, now look at that, man. That's amazing. That Sunset DX sets in and look what happens. It just fills in. Let's go ahead and go up here to 1460, get us started here at the bottom of our range and see what we have here on the Kiwi looking down south. That is Auphonix Springs, Florida. That's WZEP. Be our first, well, it would be because we're officially starting here for 8 minutes. That would be our first one. Yeah, I know, Jacob. Sorry, man. And that's one of the reasons, so you'll notice here, this season I've been trying to do like 4 or 5 frequencies at a time. This is why, because there's always, no matter what frequencies we do, there's always going to be someone who's like, I've got a local there that covers like 3 frequencies. There's splatters here, and like, you know, so if I'm doing like 1 or 2 frequencies a week, somebody's just like, I'll see you next week. I'm tuned out, right? So I don't want that to happen if I can. I toyed back and forth and back and forth and back and forth with this one, but this group of frequencies is bordered by a graveyard that we've already done. So I couldn't extend this out any further, and I wanted to do one of these kind of regional kind of groupings here. So there we are, 1460 to 1480 is where we are this week. So hopefully you guys are able to squeeze some stuff out this week. All right, so that's the Auphonix Springs. Let's look at 1470. I'm actually surprised on 1460 we didn't hear Baton Rouge. Normally they're the ones that just blow that frequency out of the water. So this one's probably Lake Charles, Louisiana, KLCL, rather. That's who I think this is probably. So we're about 5 minutes away from the new page going live. So you won't be able to log anything just yet. But we're getting there. Let's go look at 1480 really quick. We have a talk radio, that's KLCL. I don't know who the Spanish station is. It could be XEAI. Mexico City. Formula. Mexico Mike, if you're there, you're able to hear that down your way. Oh, speaking of, you know what I learned this week that I didn't know? You guys have heard me mention the little da-na-na from ABC Radio in Honduras on 550. The little sound thing that they have, the da-na-na, bling, right? Kind of metallic sounding keyboard sound. XEB, La Be Grande, does the exact same sound on 1220. Learned that this week. Didn't know that. Figured that out. That was interesting. First I was like, oh, Honduras is here. No, they weren't. It was XEB. All right, now let's go up to 1480 here and see what's there. All right, Bill, you got me. We're going red. We got a couple songs going on here that I'm going to try to talk over top of so we don't get that copyright hit. I'm guessing this one's probably WABF in Alabama Mobile. I would imagine that's who this is. Yeah, that's my guess is who that is Mobile. The ABF. Unless we have somebody new here. There is a station, Ranchita y Regional in Guadalajara. But I don't know. We shall see who this one is. We're going to stick on this one here for the top of the hour. See if we can get an idea out of these gents. There's another Spanish station in there as well. Boy can play. Little Dire Straits. Great album, that one. Thank you, Mike. Appreciate it, man. So it sounds like, yeah, we have one Spanish station in there, and I'm thinking this one with Walk of Life might be another down in Mexico. Hey, Haley, we are 1460 through 1480. Just went live just now.
An appeal attempt by Donald Trump's lawyers in its criminal trial in Missouri.
Oh, man. I looked for a second on that 1470, and that's the exact moment 1480 ID. Ah! Dang it. I thought I had a second. Ah! I still stand by that being Charlotte or Mobile, by the way. I'm gonna stand by that one. That's my guess who this is. Is there a way to share the FM list maps from 2015 today? There is. I don't know if there's a way to do all, like every year, all combined. I know there is on AM, on medium wave list. The closest I've found on FM is you can do like the current year. I've got that on my logging website. So this is my current logs for 2020, well, for 2023 is. So you can see like all of 2023 at once. Here. Because there are some stations down here that I heard in 2024 that aren't showing up. And out here that aren't showing up. So this is just 2023. So I think you can do that. I have not found a way to do all logs from a DXer from one location on FM list on one map. I haven't found that yet. If anyone figures that out, let me know. I have not. Yeah, that's all I've seen is just the year. We're gonna pop over to the Perseus here in a few moments and see what's cooking over there. And I'm trying to keep Linda from hitting me with that copyright hit by talking over top of her here. Do. Yeah, that's gotta be Mobile. Let's do this. Let's do 1470 UADF AM on the phone here. There's our listen live. Welcome to our internet stream. No, thank you. I don't want to fill out my information. That's them. And I'm going to assume, so that definitely is Mobile there, WABF on 1480 we have in there right now. I wonder who that is in the Spanish station in there underneath. Yeah, Jacob, I would assume you're getting some of the auroral attenuation going on right now based on what I'm seeing on some of the charts. I'll pull it up on screen for those of you who have not seen the current medium wave or the current solar conditions. Oh my gosh, we're at 213 solar flux. Get on HF, boys and girls. 6 meters, 10 meters, hop on them. I'm doing that tonight. 41 A index, K index of 4, and a BZ's at 1.6. Not negative. That's what we want to see. We want to see that negative BZ. But I would assume that's what's going on for you, bud, is you're getting some attenuation, right? The geomagnetic field is active. You don't say. You don't say, eh? So we might have our shot at some southern stuff for the next couple days. So here's 1470 again. Oh, by the way, remember me talking about that East Coast tropo earlier? Look what's popping up now. We've got the Gulf, we've got the East Coast. So we've got that wedge now starting to form here between the two. And that's what linked up the other day and got me into Georgia. Is that who that was, Mexico Mike? Okay. I wondered if it was, it didn't sound like a traditional Mexican station, so I wondered if that might be something more domestic in Florida or Texas. And let's pop back down to 1460.
850-520-4176 for a private shopping experience. That's Ruby's Tours in Suite 1 at 1756 Highway 90 West in Phoenix Springs. 850-520-4176.
There we go. That's WZEP again. Oh, there was the Navtex running down here from New Orleans, down here at on the Kiwi. Saw that there. All right, so that's the first three. So we got the ZEP in Florida here on 1460. On 1470, we had KLCL in Lake Charles, and then that was that talk radio 1470, and then WABF here in Mobile, Alabama. So still pretty close in so far on the new challenge frequencies. But again, we just hit past, it's now dark outside, so we're just now into the sunset period. So I'd expect that to improve as we go along in the evening. Let's do a really, really quick look at our top of the hour recordings here on the Perseus and see what we captured here. So let me start with 1480. We'll get that ID from Mobile that we missed. Yep. So that was that ID that we missed coming into the Crystal Gale song there. I missed that ID from Mobile when I switched over, but that was definitely them. 1470. Let's see what ID we captured. Is it Lake Charles?
Lake Charles. Talk Radio 1470. Southwest Louisiana's #1 choice for...
And then Town Hall News. 1460. What do we get? We've got a hit on the frequency here. Let's see if I can identify where that's coming out of. Is that 1459.99 right here is what I'm guessing. There is a station in Mexico at 9915. That's probably who this is right here, I would imagine. There's also one on 985, which would be somewhere in this area over here in Puerto Rico, so it's not them. So this is probably that station in Mexico here, XEYC in Juarez. They're 1 kilowatt, but this was, by the way, I was recording on my Western Superloop. At the top of the hour here, so that's probably pointing right at them. So that would be my guess as far as who that is on that het there on 991. On mine, it's about 05 or so, so it's about 1/100th of a hertz off, right? So, all right, let's take a quick break, and when we come back, we're gonna have some more DX coming up this hour. We're gonna do some more shout outs this hour. And we'll be talking some more FMDX stuff this hour. We'll be talking a bit about fmlist.org, the WTFDA. We're going to talk some console. We're going to talk some other stuff as well. So don't go anywhere, my friends. More DX Central Live is heading your way right after this. Of course, this hour of live DX that we're doing now, and we've been wrapping up here. This last little session here is brought to you by... National Radio Club of America, IRCA Online. Go there for more information by becoming a member today. And I hope that you do. IRCAonline.org. Let's go ahead and do a quick break. When we come back, we'll be talking FMDX and get to your shout-outs right after this.
DX Central, because we're all about radio. Visit us at dxcentralonline.com or check us out on YouTube. Search DX Central. DX Central Live is brought to you in part by...
From the pages of its DX Monitor member bulletin, members of the International Radio Club of America share their domestic and international AMDX loggings. In its Mexican log, a wealth of information can be found of stations from south of the border. Technical guides, sunrise, sunset maps, and more make the IRCA a must-join for any AMDXer. For more information, log on to ircaonline.org. That's ircaonline.org. While the HF bands can be filled with entertaining and intriguing transmissions, how do you know when and where to look? Let Teague Publishing's Global Radio Guide lead the way. In addition to its exhaustive list of time and frequency for international broadcasters, radio hobby icon Gail Van Horn brings you equipment reviews, an SDR buyer's guide, feature articles, and more. Pick up your copy today. Visit teaguepublishing.com for more information. That's teaguepublishing.com. Since 1933, the National Radio Club has been serving AMDXers while providing some of the most in-depth information in the hobby. From the annual NRC AM log, a must-have reference for domestic station information, to antenna design reference manuals, and of course, the DX News member bulletin, which is filled with station information updates, domestic and international loggings, and a whole lot more. Become a member today. For more information, log on to nationalradioclub.org. That's nationalradioclub.org.
Through crashes of static in quiet hours, we listen. In languages we can scarcely understand, and of places we have only visited in our dreams, we listen. Incessantly, we perfect our array of aerials, receivers, and resources. We refine our skills and our techniques so that we might listen. We are DX Central, and we're all about radio. Visit us at dxcentralonline.com or check us out on YouTube. Search DX Central.
Keep up with DX Central. Follow us on Twitter at DX Central.
From the DX Central North Shore Studios, this is DXC Live. Now here's your host, Lloyd Van Horn.
It's DX Central Live from the North Shore Studios here in Mandeville, Louisiana, every Friday night, at least for a couple more weeks. And we bring you live DX, we talk AM DX, we talk FM DX. And I don't want to just DX, I like to share what I've learned about the hobby, and most of that is from other DXers, right? Like some of that, so there is quite a bit of trial and error, I will admit that. But most of what I've learned is from other DXers. And so what I want to do this hour is we're going to talk about some of that from an FMDX perspective, some things I've learned from my dad, from other FMDXers that I've run across over the last several years, some things that they have taught me that has been super, super helpful. Number one, I'm just going to get us started with this conversation. I have a 9-element Yagi stereo probe 9 that our friend Les Rayburn donated to the DX Central cause here. And it's been up now for about almost a year. I guess it was probably June, July, June-ish, maybe in May when I put it up last year. And it's one of those antennas that you have to have. It's got little screws, and you have the terminals on there. It doesn't have like an F connector on the actual antenna. It's got the 2 screw terminals, and then you put a little balun on that, and you tighten that down, and then you connect your feed line to the F connector on that balun. So I had just some of those little 375 ohm cheapo Amazon baluns that I had laying around the house from some other projects I was working on, some testing and things like that. So I put one of those on there, and I've been using it now for the past year. And I didn't really think anything of it. And talking with Les, we were talking to another DXer who was Matt out in California, who got himself an FM6 Yagi he had found online somewhere. And he was like, "Oh, I don't have a connection here. I need to get a balun or get one of the things to connect my F connector and my feed line on." So I mentioned this is what I use, and Les was like, "You might want to use something else." So he actually popped up a Channel Master balun, and this is let me show you here on screen. This is it here. This is the Channel Master CM3203 outdoor balun matching transformer deluxe. I'll put the link here in the chat. You see it's $25. The one that I had was like $4 for 2 or $3 for 2 or something. It was ridiculously cheap. So this one, what does this do? Like, I think this was actually the one. It was $7.99 for 3 of them. That's what I had right here. The Ankable matching transformer, 75 to 300 ohm, gold plated. You've made it sound right. It's got, high reviews. It's getting 4.5 stars or so out of 1,000 reviews. I was like, okay, I'm 3 of them at once. I'll use that. And I was using it for some testing I was doing for some other stuff. But this sucker came in the mail, and let me show you something here. This is how I knew that I had been screwing up. So this is a screenshot that I did of my FM band using my Yagi pointed north with the old balun. Okay, this was at the time. This was my FM band that I saw on the old balun. Okay, went outside. Pop the new one on there. And that's what I saw. I mean, instantly, look at all those signals. I'm now getting, I was still on 98.1 here. I wasn't getting an RDSD code from my station in Baton Rouge here, the Eagle. Now I was. You see what a difference that balun made. So when I talk about learning from other DXers, that's what I'm talking about. There's the difference between the two. You can see the side by side. From a cheapo 3-pack for $8, 300 to 75 ohm matching balun, to a actual legit Channel Master. This is used for long distance reception, high quality balun right here, 300 to 75 ohm. That's the difference. Okay. So that's something that I learned this week, or 2 weeks ago, I guess, from a fellow DXer who taught me the importance of sometimes it's important to not cheap out. And let me tell you something. When I took that old balun off, it literally crumbled in my hands. Okay. This brings up another great point. When you're going to be doing this work and you're going to be putting if you do put a new balun on your antennas, if you don't have one of the nice ones, the good quality ones, if you do order this, make sure that when you put your connection on, make sure your connections are wrapped. Also, don't skip out. Get yourself a bottle of anti-seize. This is some Permatex anti-seize that I got from DX Engineering. It just came in today, actually. You'll want to put this on your anywhere where you have your screw connections and things like that. This keeps it from seizing up, galling and things like that. So you want to make sure you put that on your anywhere you have the screws connecting, and then make sure you wrap where your feed line connects to that F connector on the ballon. Make sure that's wrapped at bare minimum. If you have coax wrap, waterproof sealant wrap, that's ideal. At bare minimum. Right now, I'm using electrical tape because it's a temporary thing. So I'm about to put an amplifier on this one. But at bare minimum, electrical tape, a nice wrap, and I did like a couple of layers of that to wrap that up. So it's not just like done. Like I put like all the way up to where the screws connected, and then all the way down a little bit past where my F connector was, the heat shrink tubing on the coax, where my F connector was. I went all the way down, and then I went back again and did another layer or two. And then I'll just slice that open and replace it later with actual coax sealant. But again, I was doing a temporary thing. Make sure you waterproof your connections. Make sure you're using some anti-seize, NTCs here. Anywhere you have your connections, like those screw posts and things like that, or anywhere where you're like connecting like the antenna components together, things along those lines. And make sure you're using quality ballons on these things, because again, I'm just gonna say again, damn, that is quite the difference. 6 dB difference on a semi-local. You can see it went from negative 118.9 to negative 112.3. And you can see the level of other signals that came in. And like I said, I will be putting an amplifier on here because I've got a pretty long feed line, so I want to overcome some of the loss I'm getting from that feed line. It shouldn't be much of a loss. I'm using low loss feed line, but I want to overcome that anywhere that I can, because this is my this 9 element is like the antenna for if it's gonna get in the logbook, this is the antenna to do it. So I want this to be as pristine as possible. Super 88's best for outside. Yes, good job. Not just any cheap electrical tape. Scotch 3M Super 88 or 33 plus. Absolutely. I think I've got the 88 here at the house actually. So just as you're doing your preparations for FMDX season, okay, this is a great rule of thumb. Go look at your... I had no idea. That's probably why this looks so bad on the left-hand side, because that ballon was just crumbling, okay? There was rust on the inside of that ballon, and I had it wrapped. But there was still rust on the inside and everything else. So you'll definitely want to make sure that if you do have any outdoor antennas for FM, that you're giving those a once-over. Double-check all your connections. Make sure everything looks good, because you don't want this stuff busting in the middle of an E-skip opening, right? So, yeah, this is what you want to kind of keep in mind as you're looking at your antenna, is learn from Lloyd's lesson here. On the left was, I'm going to go buy a cheap one from Amazon because they're cheap and they're all the same, right? On the right was Les's solution that said, no, don't skimp on this, buddy. Get you a good quality one and be amazed at the results. And I was, and I am. And then this week, it came in handy because, man, if I had had this when they were in that Tropo opening, I wouldn't have anything. I'd have been like, what are y'all talking about, Tropo? I didn't see any Tropo. There was no Tropo here. So learn from Lloyd and be willing and able to learn from other DXers, right? I tell you guys, I'm learning all the time still. I talk about DX here, and sometimes I talk about things like I know what I'm talking about, but really, I'm still learning. Every day, I learn something about DX I didn't know the day before, usually. So, all right, let's do some more talking about things for FMDX season that will help you out. So, another thing you're going to want to do is make sure that whatever software you're using for your SDR, make sure you have the most recent version of that. Okay. I have now downloaded, and let me just go ahead and fire this up. I use 2 SDR components for my FMDX. My main rig here, got to catch up. Yeah, okay, the video is catching up now. As I was bringing console up, it made the video go freak out. So we're probably catching up now. The buffering on my machine is now catching up. So here's console. we're not going to leave this open for long because this is a resource hog at 24 megahertz wide of bandwidth. So this is the entire FM band, by the way. So I use two main SDR programs, and SDRs when I'm doing my FMDX. One is my auto logger with SDR Sharp and my AirSpy HF Plus Discovery. That one's there. I will be adding, as soon as they get off of their rear ends at SDR Play, and they get us RDS in SDR Connect, or MPX output so we can go to RDS Spy, one of the two. Just give me one. I don't care. If you aren't going to put the RDS in there in SDR Connect yet, then at least turn on the ability for me to output that RDS signal into a third party like RDS Spy or RDS DX or one of those, so that I can have some sort of RDS decode, because I'm not going to DX FM without RDS. It's not going to do it. Okay. Not on an SDR. Like if I'm on a portable, that's one thing, and more than likely it's going to have RDS on there anyway. But for me sitting in my shack doing FMDX, I need RDS. It's just not going to happen without it. So I'm not using my RSP Duo right now because of this. Yeah, I could bring this in over here, but then I don't have my diversity functionality in the Duo. So, and plus they haven't enabled diversity yet on Raspberry Pi connections for the server. So SDR Connect server. So I need that, and I need RDS, guys. Let's get this going, because FMDX season is right around the corner, and otherwise that's going to sit unused for FMDX season. I don't want that, because I put a lot of work into getting those antennas up. Anywho, so AirSpy with the auto logger, and this is SDR Console, which is my Elad FDMS3 with the Stereo Probe 9 element Yagi. And right now, this is the most recent version. This is version 3.3. How do I know it's the most recent? You have a button right here that says check for updates, and I forget where it is. It might have been here. One of these tabs I was on, it actually had like a button that appeared and said, dude, you've got an update, go get it. It had a button that said an update is available, and it might have been on this help button. I don't remember tab. I don't remember which one it was at, but it came up an extra button that said there's an update, and so I went and downloaded it. I was on 3.2. Now I'm on 3.3. So that is one thing you're going to want to make sure that you do, is get the most recent version. And I say that because a lot of these more recent versions, they're listening to us as DXers, and they're putting in, they know how we're using this. Like Yusef Prague over at AirSpy has been doing this a lot. They've been putting a lot of enhancements around RDS decoding. Simon Brown at SDR Console has been putting a lot of enhancements into making these more sensitive for RDS decoding, and improving their RDS decoding technology that's built into the software. So you're going to get a better RDS decode experience because of that. So I highly, highly, highly recommend, it was on the last, yeah. I think it was on this one. I think it was over here next to the PayPal tab. I think it was. It popped up and said, you have an update, go get it. Anywho, but you can always go here to help and then click on check for updates, and that will give you an idea if there's an update available. So I'm gonna go ahead and close this out now. This might freeze my video again. Okay. Yeah, I know. It's that 24 megahertz of bandwidth on the SDR console. It's a resource hog. Especially when I'm also running Kiwi here and I'm running Jaguar on another screen. So bottom line, make sure you've got the most recent version of your SDR software, and you should be good to go. If you use HD SDR, SDR Sharp, SDR console, whatever it is, just get the most recent version. Now, I want to talk a bit about this. So I have been trying this week to make this work, and I have not been able to. So I'm going to share this with you all in hopes that maybe you have a better experience and can help a brother out here. So go to, those of you who want to do this, go to FM List, log into your FM List instance here. And I'm trying to remember where this would be at. Actually, it's on the main page. You don't have to log in. Let me go back to the main page. Click on fmscan.org. Okay. What we need to do is we need to make sure that our SDR if we're using SDR console, or like I am, we need to make sure that our version of SDR console has the most up-to-date information of RDS codes in the program, so that when it's receiving it and it's comparing that to the list of known RDS codes, that it's got the most updated information. Okay, when it comes in fresh off the shelf when you download it, it's not going to have that. You actually have to get that information for it. So what I'm going to show you is the process that I've been told is the way to go. I have not been able to get this to work. Okay? So we're going to try this together here, and we're going to see if we can make it work. But you try at home as well with me and see if you can get this going. So go to FM list, and then scroll down here. Don't log in. Scroll down here until you'll see fmscan.org. Click on that. Okay? This is step one. Now, here's one of the areas that I've had some trouble. So it says to log in with my credentials from FM list, which I have saved on my computer. And I do that, and it just refreshes. It actually didn't log me in. It just refreshed. Now, I don't know if you guys are having that problem or not. If you log in here and it gets you in, you're probably going to have a better experience than I did. I think this is the root of why I'm having issues. Because when I try to log in using my FM list credentials, it's not working. I click over here on medium wave list and click login because it's the same credentials, and it gets me in. Okay? So ultimately, you should get to this screen right here. Okay, so if you don't have a login for FM list or medium wave list or whatever, you need to do that. You got to have that for this whole process to work. You should have one anyway. It's just going to help you out in the long run. We'll talk about that, especially next week. We're going to talk more next week about eSkip. And so we'll talk about why that's going to help you. So once you get to this screen though, so I am here on fmscan.org and I'm logged in because it's got my information. Here we go. But it says medium wave list, and I think that's what's tripping me up here. Now that I'm looking at that, I think that's what's tripping this up. You'll see why in a second. Go as you look at the screen here. There's a link right here that says Tools, User List, etc. Click on that. It's going to give you these links. The first one is what you want: User List for Perseus, Elad, Win Radio, Station List, SDR Console. Click on that sucker. Okay. Now, the first thing you want to do, this is the order that I found that has worked in the past. First, click on CSV format. Okay? If you click on these others first, it's going to reset it. So click on CSV first. Then click on the one that says FM plus Tropo. Okay? Now, for this CSV separator, you can use whatever you want. It doesn't matter. Whichever one. I think I just leave it at default, whatever it says. Here's where I think I'm getting tripped up and why mine's not working. Look over here. It says this CSV format is a text file with, it gives you all the different fields. And you'll see one of them says RDSPS, RDSPI. That RDSPI is what you need. That's the PI code. That's the identifier code, like, CDA2 or whatever, right? That's the identifier code that tells what station it is on that frequency. And then look at this. PI codes are only available after login at FM list in a separate tab. So I've tried clicking on this link and then logging in a separate tab. And here it is. Now I'm logged in. You guys see that. I'm logged in. And then I say, okay, download this Tropo, FM plus Tropo CSV format. And then I download that. When I've downloaded that file and I've opened it up and looked at it, the PI codes aren't populating. And I think it's because right now I'm logged in with my medium wave list login. So it's not tied to my FM list login. And I don't know how to fix that. I'm probably going to have to reach out to Lawrence and all those guys. So you guys give this a shot. For those of you who use FM list, go ahead and go to fmscan.org, log in with your FM list credentials and see if it works for you. And if it does, maybe I need to change my credentials since they are the same on both. Maybe that's what's giving it a fit. So try this out. So yeah, go to fmscan.org. Once you've logged in, then go here to Tools, User List, etc. Then click on User List for Perseus, Elad, Win Radio, Station List, SDR Console, that first one that's there. Click on CSV format, then click on Tropo to start with, and hit download. Then once you've gotten that downloaded, then you can open up and see if there's a PI code on your list. And if it's there, then you're golden. If it's not there, then don't even bother going any further because that's what you need. You need the code, okay? Once you download that file and you confirm the code is there, then you're going to want to do the same thing with this FM plus meteor scatter and the sporadic E. You want to download all these first three right here: FM plus Tropo, FM plus meteor scatter, and sporadic E. Bill says his also did not log him in, just medium wave list. I'm going to have to ping them and see what's up because we need this. We need this information to make sure our stuff is as updated as possible. So once you get yours working, though, these are the first three right here. These are what you want to have: FM less tropo, FM plus tropo, FM plus meteor scatter, and sporadic key. You want to download each one of those three as a CSV file. Then once you've downloaded that, there are instructions I'll be putting out in a video here. Once I get mine working and I can download these files with the PI code, I'm going to be putting together a video that walks you through the process of how to import these three files into SDR Console. And basically what you're doing is you're putting these into Console, and then Console is going to be looking at this information, looking for your, when it receives the code from the signal that you're receiving, it's going to compare to this list that you've provided for it. If it finds a match, then it's going to not only put that up on the screen, it's going to put a check mark next to it, a little check mark. And it says basically, yeah, this is a real RDS code. You can trust this. So far, I did this process last year and it worked fine. This year I'm having fits. So far, when I tested this last year, every one of them that I had a check mark was spot on. I didn't run into any situations where it was a false decode when there was a check mark. So let me know your success. Bill and I, neither one of us can get ours to work. It's just the medium wave list logging in. That's the only thing that's allowing us to work. So if you can get yours to work, let me know. And then let me know, like, do you have a medium wave list login? Is it the same? Like, I'm thinking that mine being the same on both is what's tripping this up. I may change my FM list login to something different and see if that does the trick and fixes it. So maybe that'll help. But that's what you need to do, is get those three files downloaded. And then once we get that process worked up here, I'm putting together a video to go up on the YouTube channel here that'll explain the process and how you are able to load those in and get those into SDR Console. So hopefully we can get that figured out here pretty soon. But that's one thing, once we get this done, that's one thing you're definitely going to want to do, because it will give you much more accurate decodes, much more accurate information in front of you on screen for those of you who use SDR Console, which I think is a lot of us. I think a lot of us are using Console for FMDX, especially for the recording. Now, we're going to be doing another video on recording for SDR Sharp. I've already got 2 videos up on the YouTube channel right now that talk about recording in Console. One is about scheduling and one is about reviewing your recording. So here is one of them. I'll go ahead and pop these 2 links in the chat here in a second. So here is the one on recording and like setting up the recordings. It talks a lot about AMDX, but it's the same process for FMDX. And then here is the video that talks about reviewing your recordings in Console and kind of navigating through. So those are the 2 videos I would kind of start with if you're newer to Console or just want a refresher on how to set up your recordings, and then review those after the fact. I'll tell you, the only reason I'm sitting over 900 stations on FM since April 20th of last year is because of the recordings that I did. Now, the Elad does the whole band, so I've got the whole band. So that's been a big part of that. I'd be way under 900 if I wasn't able to do the entire band and just go through and get all that stuff. But those recording reviews are what's really helped me flush out and not only get a lot of stations in the log. It's not just a lot of fluff. Like, there's good stuff in there. Like, I wouldn't have Wyoming in my logbook right now if it wasn't for those recordings. I wouldn't have Rhode Island in my logbook right now if it wasn't for those recordings. I wouldn't have Delaware right now in my logbook if it wasn't for those recordings. There's a lot of the stuff that I was able to get. I wouldn't have North Dakota in my logbook if it wasn't for those recordings. So there's been some stuff I've been able to get because they were buried in some of those recordings. They weren't noticed at the time during the opening. So where possible, try to get yourself some recordings going. Mine, because I'm doing the whole band, my files are huge. Hopefully yours aren't as big. If you're using like one of the RSP duos or DX, one of those that have the 10 megahertz wide, you're doing like half the band. Maybe you're not even doing that much if you, because when I try to do 10 megahertz at a time, it gets very stuttery for some reason, but I can do the full band, that's fine. If you're using like the AirSpy or one of those, you're probably doing a much smaller slice, and so your files aren't as big, but you will want to have some external hard drives to store this stuff on, at least temporarily, and then you can always delete it when you're done. So yeah, that's getting those pieces ready for the upcoming DX season, is getting your software ready, getting your antenna, giving that a thorough look over, like we talked about earlier with the balance stuff that I was working on. making sure everything is watertight and ready to go. Get your SDR console, your SDR Sharp up to the most recent version, whatever you're using. Get the most recent version of it. And especially if it's been a while since you've used that particular program. Like I use a lot of Jaguar and Kiwi this year on my AM side, so I haven't done a whole lot in console, so I had to kind of remember where things were and some of the controls and things like that. So if it has been a while, refamiliarize yourself with it. This is a perfect excuse for you to do a band scan during dead band conditions. Do that band scan and use that as an opportunity to refamiliarize yourself with SDR console or whatever your FM program is, if it's different from AM. And that will allow you to remember, like, how do you get the RDS turned on? How do you make it bigger? Things like that. How do I set it up so that I can output that into RDS Spy so I can do both at the same time? Things like that. We'll talk a bit about those next week because I'm going to probably close some of these other programs down and just focus on console next week a bit. So yeah, we'll look at some FMDX next week and how to do some of those things, especially as it pertains to like an E-skip opening and stuff like that. But if you are good with those, you just want to refresh, go ahead and start working on that over the next week and get yourself up to speed because E-skip season is around the corner. Let's do another quick break, and when we come back, we'll get ready for another little bit of DX. We'll do some of your shout-outs here, and actually, you know what? Do that. Let's do the shout-outs first. Let's not do a break. I'm not gonna. Don't need no stinking break. Let's do another round of shout-outs, shall we? Jacob, and let's see. Egan, let's get you started here, buddy. This first round, or the second round of shout-outs. All right, Keegan from Boot Crew North up in Northwest Arkansas. What did Keegan hear this week? Well, he got himself 106.3 KWOF in Oklahoma, 106.3 The Wolf at 5:57 a.m. on the 15th. That's 198 miles. For Keegan from Arkansas to Oklahoma. Good job, my friend. Alrighty. David Harden, guess what? Just logged himself a station on 1230 and from Warner Robins, Georgia, got himself to be BLJ in Dalton, Georgia. Been after this graveyard frequency for weeks. There are other stations there he needs to get in, but managed to squeeze out Dalton, Georgia to be BLJ on 1230. Those graveyarders, man, that's an accomplishment. All right. That's where we are as of right now. I got one more for Mexico, Mike P. We're going to hold on to that one, do that one for the third round here at the top of the hour. But if you have not yet gotten your shout-outs in, for shame, you need to do that. So get your shout-outs in here on the shout-out form that we just submitted into the chat. And we want to know what you've been hearing last week on AM and FMDX, if you've done any of that as well. All right, yeah, we will do a quick break. Let's do that. When we come back, we'll hit some more DX and get us ready for another week of medium wave frequency challenge. We're on 1460 to 1480 this week, so we'll be looking at those frequencies when we come right back. Don't go anywhere.
DX Central, because we're all about radio. Visit us at dxcentralonline.com or check us out on YouTube. Search DX Central. DX Central Live is brought to you in part by...
From the pages of its DX Monitor member bulletin, members of the International Radio Club of America share their domestic and international AM/DX loggings. In its Mexican log, a wealth of information can be found of stations from south of the border. Technical guides, sunrise, sunset maps, and more make the IRCA a must-join for any AM/DXer. For more information, log on to ircaonline.org. That's ircaonline.org. While the HF bands can be filled with entertaining and intriguing transmissions, how do you know when and where to look? Let Teague Publishing's Global Radio Guide lead the way. In addition to its exhaustive list of time and frequency for international broadcasters, radio hobby icon Gail Van Horn brings you equipment reviews, an SDR buyer's guide, feature articles, and more. Pick up your copy today. Visit teakpublishing.com for more information. That's teakpublishing.com. Since 1933, the National Radio Club has been serving AMDXers while providing some of the most in-depth information in the hobby. From the annual NRC AM log, a must-have reference for domestic station information, to antenna design reference manuals, and of course, the DX News Member Bulletin, which is filled with station information updates, domestic and international loggings, and a whole lot more. Become a member today. For more information, log on to nationalradioclub.org. That's nationalradioclub.org.
Through crashes of static in quiet hours, we listen. In languages we can scarcely understand, and of places we have only visited in our dreams, we listen. Incessantly, we perfect our array of aerials, receivers, and resources. We refine our skills and our techniques so that we might listen. We are DX Central, and we're all about radio. Visit us at dxcentralonline.com or check us out on YouTube. Search DX Central.
Keep up with DX Central. Follow us on Twitter at DX Central.
From the DX Central North Shore Studios, this is DXC Live. Now here's your host, Lloyd Van Horn.
Go!
Ah, I thought I had all that stuff turned off. I was sitting there turning everything off, and I was like, I got it all. No, I didn't. And it's DX Central live from the North Shore Studios here in Mandeville, Louisiana. Bringing you live DX, engaging conversations about DX-related topics on AM and FM DX. Shout-outs. And a whole lot of fun. FUN, baby. FUN. All right, so we're on 1460 to 1480 this week. 3 frequencies, 150 some odd stations, 160 some odd stations. We're going to pack them all in here. We're going to try to get as many of these suckers as we can. So I've got all the different antennas up right now that we have at our disposal. Let's take a tour of the shack. Of course, this hour of Live DX is brought to you by International Radio Club of America, ircaonline.org. Please make sure you go check them out and become a member today if you aren't already one. So the first thing we're going to look at here is the Perseus. On our Jaguar software, we got 2 antennas on this one right now. We are sitting right now on our southeast 125 degree 20 by 97 Superloop, but we also do have at our disposal this guy. This is 15 by 56, and it's pointing at 263 degrees out to the west. That's where we're going to leave it for the top of the hour here, because we want to see what's out in that direction because the sunset and stuff. Also at our disposal. Oh, it disconnected. Not for long. We're going to put this back on for our Surface Pro 6 and this guy. It's the AirSpy HF Plus Discovery with a Superloop that is 22 feet high, 72 feet long, and it's currently pointed right now at 15 degrees. So kind of up towards Bill right now. We're kind of pointing in the general area of Bill Curry up there in Michigan. That's where the antenna is pointing at, and hopefully dragging in some of those signals up his and Jacob's way back down here to Louisiana. And we've also got our Kiwi, and we're gonna minimize this guy so we can see the Kiwi SDR version 2. This is at Studio C around the corner at Shortwave Central, and this is our 25 foot by 72 foot CAS antenna, currently oriented at 150 degrees, which is pretty much pointing right at the Colombia-Panama border. If you kind of visualize where that is exactly 150 degrees from New Orleans, and that's where we then go in from that angle into central Colombia and beyond into South America. So, with all of that being said, we should have a plethora of signals to choose from, right? Let's hope. Let's start on the AirSpy and see what that AirSpy HF Plus Discovery is going to cook up for us on that. Hey, make that go away. 15 degree antenna. Let's go up to 14. That's too far. Let's go to 1460. How about that? And see what's on the radio now. We're going to use our vactrol to try to dial in a little resistance on the backside and null some of those stations that we don't want out. Did I know today's World Simpson Day? No! I did not! Alright, we got a little country music happening here on 1460. Again, we're pointing northeast-ish. Northeast. Good night, Haley. Good night, Carl. And good night, Master Player. Y'all take care, my friends. There's Mike in the house.
And the top
welcome, my friend.
Inches of an old 5-gallon bucket works great. Once you cut it smoothly away from the rest of the bucket, you're ready to mix up some ordinary bagged concrete. When it's thoroughly mixed, pour it into the form, scraping off the excess flush with the top of the form. As the concrete sets up, the kids can decorate it with handprints, polished stones, or do some custom engraving with a stick. When it's dry, you have a stepping stone and a family keepsake. I'm Danny Lifford with tips for today's homeowner.
Why not treat yourself to something special for a change? You went to the perfect place. The Pink House is at 2 Wells on Baldwin Avenue in Puniac Springs. Open Tuesday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m.
WWZEP.
Southern hospitality, hydrofacials, Glow 2 facial, skin rejuvenation, hair removal, fat loss and body sculpting, massage.
Still in there right now, 1460.
There's 7608 Baldwin Avenue in Puniac Springs. Treat yourself today. 850-520-4373.
Hi, everyone.
weekend in the country. Each week we travel back in time for a countdown.
1470. Nothing right now. It's really kind of standing out at least. 1480. Easy lover. I'm guessing that's still Mobile. And the Spanish station in there is probably KLVL here in Pasadena. So let us now swap on over, break on through to the other side with our Kiwi and the big Kaz. Let's take a look. Come on now. Hello. The Kaz doesn't want to give me any audio. There we go. Just a little refresh is all I needed. All right, that's 1460. Up, it's that time. I want to say that Phil Collins song. Give it out a second. I'm pretty sure that was WABF in Mobile. Dan Rather and Connie Chung. Now you're speaking to my childhood. So that's probably Florida again. We're going to come back to this one. That's probably Mobile and KLVL. So let's go over here and sit now on 1470 and see if we can suss out who this is with the Spanish programming.
Estamos listos para representarte y trabajar para ti. Vota por las candidatas a senadoras y diputados de FlexRadio.
Dato curioso. El alfabeto de Camboya cuenta con 74 letras.
Oh, what's up, man? We gotta celebrate our friend Earl in the house. Welcome, my friend. Long time no see.
Or even composing and arranging music on computers. Music classrooms are bursting with creative
Cramp.
waiting to be explored by young minds. Don't leave the place and support your school music.
Families affected by disasters urgently need support. Help the American Red Cross provide
That's what I was thinking.
shelter to those affected by disasters.
I thought I heard a formula ID in there, but I wasn't for sure.
Disaster relief. Go to redcross.org. Call 1-800-RED-CROSS.
Orgullosamente representa la gran selección musical. La música del sonido de oro. Gracias por estar con nosotros.
There's a Grupo formula there. working for Pizza Hut, back when you could actually go to Pizza Hut and eat in restaurant. And it was like an experience. Like, I mean, I thought going to eat at Pizza Hut was the equivalent of like fine dining. I mean, maybe not fine dining, but at least it was at the bare minimum like Olive Garden, at least, right? Like it's a. Glad to hear they're back on the air without HD. Egypt Lake. WMGG Egypt Lake. So we've got XEAI, KLCL, and WMGG all here on 1470 so far. But I remember when Egypt Lake was HD and it was just when you got on 1470. Wiped out the frequency. Bernard Shaw over on CNN. Christiane Amanpour over there in Iraq during the first Gulf War. There's Jeff. What? We got Jeff in the house tonight in here too, man. All right. Welcome, man. I'm really hoping that I can get this other station down here in Mexico on 1470 this week. Voz de Maya, or Voz Maya. That's one of the indigenous stations. It's 2.5K XEBAL. They're on the Yucatan. I really, 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 really want that station. That's going to be Lake Charles still. Alright, so that's on the Kiwi. We've looked on the Kiwi, we've looked on the AirSpy. Let's take a look over here on the Perseus and the Jaguar software here and see what did we catch at the top of the hour. I love that about Jaguar. I love the DVR functionality that it has. So I can go back here and say, okay, what was up? Oh, come on. There we go. We go to 1460. That's still WZEP there on 1460. They're going to be a tough one, apparently, this week, because they're everywhere. And Rick, Mexico Mike says that indigenous station only daytimers, they don't broadcast tonight. So that's good to remember as well, because that will hopefully help me maybe around sunset-y time frame, maybe sunrise time frame. Somewhere in the morning, I might have a shot at one of those guys, because that's those indigenous stations. I collect those, man. Those are like precious, right? Let's see, 1460 ZP, 1470.
Red Cross. You're listening to KLCL, Lake Charles, USA. Talk Radio, it's 9 o'clock.
So we had KLCL in there that goes to Town Hall, but who is that with? Who is that? It's 9 o'clock. I'm going to have to guess. Would it have been Peoria? I don't remember Peoria's format. Who would that have been, guys? Help me out. It's someone in the Central Time Zone. Let me try a lower sideband, see if I got a crack at him here. Can y'all snuff that out? I'm having a hard time to separate them. I'm trying my dangest to pull that out. I'm going to have to sit on that one a bit. It's someone in the Central Time Zone. And KLCL is there. I know that one. Underneath them, there's another station. Because KLCL does their ID. They go to Town Hall News. There's another station underneath them. And they go to ABC. And you'll hear them actually say it's 9 o'clock. And then they go to ABC News. Listen again. There's an ID in there. I just am having a hard time pulling it out. Let's do one more. Town Square Media is KLCL. That's who that is. Right? Pretty sure? Let me know. Yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know who that is. It's someone in the Central Time Zone. My best, if I had to have, I guess maybe WMBD in Peoria, but I don't know if they're still on at night, right? Are they daytime only, or are they also a nighttime or 5K? That's my guess. Is WMBD. I don't know. We'll sit on that one a bit. Let's check the 1480 and see if we had Mobile again here on the Southeast Wire. Or actually, we're on the West Wire for this one. Ooh, we are looking west, aren't we? Oh, that puts that... What is Dallas's format on this frequency? That's Viet Radio. I didn't hear that. We were on the West Wire, though. What do we have on 1480? This should have hopefully gotten me away from Mobile, but we weren't away from Funiac Springs, so maybe not. Thank you, Earl and Jacob. Yeah, that's my best guess of who that might be. I'm not hearing anything ID in there. I'm not sure who that would be. Probably more than likely Mobile. Heard Sport. I thought I heard that in there at some point as well. There might have been 3 stations in there. There very well could have been. There was KLCL. There was a news talk station that went to ABC News, and there could have been a sports talk station. Let's do it one more time, shall we? One more time for the kids.
Help the American Red Cross provide meals and shelter to those affected by disasters, big and small. Donate to Red Cross Disaster Relief. Go to redcross.org or call 1-800-RED-CROSS. You're listening to KLTL with Lake Charles. Talk Radio. It's 9 o'clock.
My other guess would be Rome, Georgia, and WRGA. I think they're pretty weak at night, though. I've heard them here, though. 159.56.
By disasters, big and small. Donate to Red Cross Disaster Relief. Go to redcross.org or call 1-800-RED-CROSS. You're listening to KLTL with Lake Charles.
I hear that. I hear what you're saying, Rick. I hear it.
Donate to Red Cross Disaster Relief. Go to redcross.org or call 1-800-RED-CROSS. You're listening to KLTL with Lake Charles. Talk Radio. It's 9 o'clock. Donate to Red
One more
Cross
time.
Disaster Relief. Go to redcross.org or call 1-800-RED-CROSS. You're listening to KLTL with Lake Charles.
I just see. This is what's going to be a challenge. It's only 3 frequencies, but they're on top of each other. It's as close as you can get to a graveyard frequency grouping without being on the graveyarders. I'm pretty sure the 1400s are the highest volume of stations outside of the graveyard. So there we go. Let us resume normal operations here. That means turning off this guy. And turning these guys. Part of the remodel will be that I'll have a button on my scene switcher over here, Stream Deck that I use. That's going to allow me to change those light colors without having to touch this. No more remote. Just a button and it does it. It'll be fancy in this piece up in here. Could it be KRBC Abilene? KYYW, I think, is their caller now. That's actually a very good possibility there, Earl. It's a very good possibility. We're gonna do one more round here of the old what's the word I'm looking for? Shoutouts. That's it. We're gonna do one more round of shoutouts and then we'll wrap everything up, y'all. We got Mexico Mike P has got some AMDX shout outs to get to. Before we do that, make sure that you are up on the website. If you have not yet done so, dxchallenges.com. dxchallenges.com. That's the website address you want to go to register, and make sure that you are throwing your logs in there for the medium wave frequency challenge. 1460, 1470, and 1480. Those are the 3 frequencies. Well, there's also the stuff in between. So if you're outside of the U.S., by all means, you can still do the stuff in between. So anything between 1460 and 1480. That does include like Benin. If you heard Benin on 1476 or whatever, that counts. Okay. So transatlantic, transpacific also accounts for these logs as well. So the 9K frequencies and the 10Ks between 1460 and 1480. Again, that website was dxchallenges.com, in case you missed it. Okay. So make sure you register. Also, don't forget, just in general, if you're newer to DX or kind of wondering what we're talking about here, dxcentralonline.com. That's our website. You can go to for more information about AMDX, FMDX. We're going to be doing eventually a remodel of that sucker too. I'm all about keeping things fresh. Maybe it's because I used to work in a grocery store. I think that might be why. I like to keep things fresh and rotated and clean. All right, it's time for one more round. Shoutouts. And the horn is working. Yes, it is. All right, Mexico Mike P's got him a shout out to get to. So if you have a shout out, you still got a few more moments here while we read his. To get that in on the shout out link. If not, we'll get you next week. No worries. No biggie. You can always submit that. That link doesn't change. You can submit it whenever you want. It'll be here waiting for me. So let's go to Mexico Mike P here. He's got some medium wave DX now. He's got a bunch of stuff here that he's got listed. And I'm going to try to kind of go through some of the highlights here because there's quite a bit here that he's heard. Making sure I get the new stuff in here for you. The big one here I want to make sure he mentions here. He's got new stations heard at night here. He's got 1390 XECTAM, which is a new Mexican state of Morelos for him. So let's go ahead and fire that sucker off. All right, so no, not you. You've already done your thing. How about this one? No, we're not doing that. New station. So that was a new station he has heard recently on nighttime. Was 1390 XECTAM for a new Mexican state, and some new stations heard during daytime. Don't forget about your daytime DX, you guys. Daytime can be very, very productive. Especially if you haven't spent a while doing it. I probably need to do another band scan. I recently found a station that I changed some of my antenna stuff, and I had a new direction I didn't normally have, and I heard a new station on daytime that I didn't have before. So especially if you've done the antenna work or some new antennas or change your antennas and things like that, or change the direction, that kind of stuff, give your daytime band another run through just in case. You never know what you might find there. And sometimes call letters change. You might want to grab one of those. And get those documented. Sometimes noise sources that we have here in the daytime go away, and we don't have that to contend with anymore, and then we have a nice open area for us to look at. So Mexico Mike's been doing some of that. He's got some new stations here during daytime, so let's take a look at those. 690 XEMA, 920 KYST, 1070 XEIT, 1190 XEXQ, 1300 XCPAD, 1350 XECTZ, 1460 KBRZ, get that one again this week, and 1510 KBED. Those are the new stations heard daytime recently, and then the new nighttime 1390 XECTAM for the New Mexican state. So well done, my friend. Let's get you the log saw. And there you go. All right. So 1460, 1470, 1480, and the 9 kilohertz ones in between. That's where we're sitting for this week. We've got this week and then uno más. Uno más. We got one more after that that we'll be doing and introducing next week, and that one's going to be a doozy. So I don't like to encourage people to not participate. But if you're like, hey, one of these weeks I need to take some time off, do it this week. Because next week you're going to want to do it. You're going to want to be part of the fun. And it's going to be a doozy. Okay? There's a lot in that space that we're going to be doing next week. A lot. Lot. And I mean, both frequency and station count. Okay? Put it that way. Some of those frequencies are very open and very barren with like 1 or 2 stations at night. Some of those frequencies are jam-packed full of stuff. So there's going to be a little bit of everything in here. There's going to be some Latin American stations available to you. There's going to be a lot of domestic stations. There's going to be some Canadian stations available. There are some transoceanic opportunities for those of you who have the opportunity to hear transoceanic stuff that week. So this week, have fun with it at 1460 to 1480. But be ready, because next week, when we introduce around right before 8 o'clock next week, oh boy, that one's going to be interesting. So don't forget FMDX. We're kicking into high gear on FM season here starting next week. We did a little bit of FMDX review, getting you ready for the season this week. We're going to continue that discussion next week. Hopefully I can get my RDS downloads working between now and then and actually have that video ready to show you guys. But go ahead and do your band scans, get those done, get your antennas reviewed and looked at. I'm about to check this out. I'm about to try this weekend, like the 3rd time, to get my Stellar Labs omnidirectional up about 60 to 70 feet up in the air. That's going to be my, if I can pull this off, if I can get this Stellar Lab omnidirectional up at 60 or plus feet in the air in this mega huge tall tree. If I can pull this off, that will be my new autologger. And stand by. This is going to be just unbelievable at that point. That's going to be the autologger that hopefully sees everything. So if I can pull this off, I'm going to have a little amplifier on that sucker as well, a little Klitz amplifier, because it will have a long feed line coming back. If I can pull this off, though, next week when we do our next segment of FMDX talk, hopefully I'll be looking at a big old bunch of stuff on the autologger from a 60 plus foot omnidirectional FM antenna. That would be really nice. All right, you guys, take care, my friends. 73 Best of DX. Hopefully the bands are kind to you over the next week. We'll see you next Friday right here on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and Twitch on DX Central Live. Take care.
This is DX.